Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Whistlethrowers. It's a great way to interact with our show. Our DMs are always open for questions, topic discussions, and more. You will be able to find our new episodes and other announcements there.
Thanks for tuning back to the Whistlethrowers podcast. This is hosted by Jack Mubarak.
Jack Slaymaker.
And we got a little different episode for you guys today. We're going to switch it up and we're going to talk about boxing. So I have a question for you guys. Do you think the celebrity boxing and the non-professional fighters boxing each other is harmful to the actual sport of boxing?
So, yeah, definitely I do think that these celebrities, and now we're seeing a lot of former athletes too that are taking this boxing approach to their careers. I do think it's kind of harmful to the sport. I understand just the fun of it and that they want to, get a quick buck, a nice check. And I understand that. And, I understand they're allowed to do this. Obviously, it's like completely legal. There's nothing scummy about it or anything. But at the same time, it just I feel like it mocks the actual sport of boxing because the real professional boxers don't get as much attention as these celebrities who pretty much steal the marketing aspect of boxing, because that's a huge part of boxing is marketing your match and getting people hyped up and ready for the fight. And the celebrity approach just gives them a leg up in that department, and it's kind of unfair, and I feel bad for professional boxers who have truly trained and worked their whole life and in reality would probably beat a lot of these celebrities and even the former athletes in a boxing match. I feel bad for them because they are what we should be watching and what we should be talking about with boxing, but instead we're talking about these fraud celebrities. I think that the one exception is Jake Paul. I'm interested to see what Jake Paul can do in real boxing against some professional fighters, real professional fighters. I'm intrigued, and honestly, I'm rooting for him because I think that he isn't a mockery of the sport. I think that he's truly invested in the sport of boxing. And yeah, he did have a leg up in the marketing department, like I said. But at the same time, I feel like he truly is a boxer, and I think that he truly does have a shot at beating professional fighters. So I'm interested in him, and I'm rooting for him.
I think it really depends on how you do it. First of all, who your fighters are, because you can have celebrity boxers who aren't real boxers who are still very competitive in boxing. Case in point, when they did the Floyd Mayweather versus Conor McGregor fight, that was actually a boxing match that people wanted to see just to see how McGregor would do in the ring. And he actually did pretty well. He lasted 10 rounds against Floyd Mayweather, which nobody thought would happen. Lost in a 10th round in TKO. But even that fight was fun watching. And then Floyd took it. Because here's the thing, really about it, it's not the celebrities who's pushing this as much that frustrates me. Because if you're a celebrity that's pushing boxing, whatever, if you think that's okay. It's really the regular boxers who are pushing these celebrity fights that's really bad for the sport. Floyd Mayweather was the best boxer since Tyson, and then decides to fight Logan Paul for absolutely no reason other than money. And it was a complete disgrace to fight. First of all, Logan Paul, if he was an actual good fighter, would have destroyed Floyd, considering that he was a good 6 inches taller and a good 35 pounds up on Floyd. And Floyd technically won according to ESPN, even though that fight was not actually... It was an unofficial fight. But even still, it was just a really bad fight to watch. There's actually no skill in it. Floyd easily could have won and decided to keep going because he wanted people to still be tuned into it. So when you see fights like that, and Logan versus Davis fight was just literally just a squash beef over the internet in boxing, I just don't understand these types of fights. You're literally just trying to get as much money as possible. And it's not good for the sport. It's not good for fans because fans aren't stupid. They know that it's just for money. They know that they're not really going to be watching any real competition. So yeah, I do think that it's bad for the sport depending on how you do it.
Agreed. So I got a lot of numbers from prolific actual boxing fights, and I'm comparing them to some notable celebrity fights. So the biggest boxing series that we've had in recent history was the Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury. And the viewings, the legal viewings, I'm not counting illegal viewings for either case, but all the legal viewings for those 3 fights was 300,000 for the first one, 850,000 for the second one, and then less than 600,000 pay-per-view views for the third and final fight. And if you look at some of the Paul brothers fights, and I'll just start with Logan because he's not Jake, he's an amateur. He got to fight Mayweather, and Aiden, you said it earlier, but I feel like he enabled a lot of this. We all know Floyd is all about money, it's in his brand, and he'll literally do anything for an extra dollar, and even if it causes damage to the sport that gave him everything he has today. The pay-per-view views for the Logan vs. Mayweather fight was 1 million. More than any of the Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury fights. That is disgraceful.
Right, yeah.
Like,
completely agreed.
And if you watched any of those fights for Wilder Fury, they were incredible.
Yeah,
each and every single one of them.
Because those are true professional fighters. Yeah.
2 of the best. Tyson may be the best heavyweight ever.
Yeah.
It's debatable.
And Wilder's right up there with him, too.
Yeah. And you go look at Jake Paul, he's the only fighter of this subcategory that I validate. Because I've seen linear progression in all of his fights.
Yeah.
And he's actually, like, in a boxer's physique. Like, he's a top-tier physique for a human, an athlete. Like, he's actually dedicating himself to the sport.
Yeah.
And getting better along the way. But it's sad because if he were to fight someone like Andrew Tate, that would be the biggest pay-per-view fight ever.
Yeah.
And there's so much wrong with that.
Yeah, agreed.
So much. You mentioned it earlier, Aiden, the Conor McGregor and the Floyd Mayweather fight. I also think this fits in with the disingenuine boxing fights because you're taking Conor out of his natural habitat for money. There was no reason for them to fight other than internet beef and just getting as much money as possible because Conor had no chance of beating Floyd. And as you saw in that fight, he reverted to kicking because he's no match for him with just hands.
I mean, you are right about that, but it was still an entertaining fight, though.
I mean, yeah, it was entertaining, but I feel like a lot of Floyd's style is he will extend fights for viewership. Like, I think he would have ended him in 1 round if he wanted to, but Floyd's style is dancing around and tiring them out and then knocking him out or winning by decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, going back to that point earlier, Floyd's really been the one that pushed this. Like, the McGregor fight was the first big celebrity fight. And, like, yes, I understand the point that you're saying that Floyd could easily knock out before. There was times where it looked like McGregor was about to get knocked out early and he stood back up. But McGregor's also, yes, UFC is not boxing, but he's still at least in the territory of boxing, that it was a decent fight to watch, where there's no reason to bring in these outside celebrities for boxing. Even if you want to make all this money, Floyd has more money than he can possibly eat. And the fact that he is basically going bankrupt and it seems like needs these fights to keep money is absolutely ridiculous. And that's something that he needs to work out privately, not publicly, and not to bring down the sport that made him all the money in the first place.
Right. And to add on to this point, the Mayweather versus McGregor fight was the second most pay-per-viewed streamed fight in history with 4,300,000 pay-per-view views. In the top 10, there was the 2020 Mike Tyson, Roy Jones Jr. fight. And I'm seeing a trend here of big names and promotions getting the most pay-per-views and not the actual best fighters with the best talent going at it with each other. It's all names and promotion. It's terrible for the sport. And all the internet personalities have that big advantage with promotion because they have way more social media following. They know how to get trending. They know the algorithm, and they use it to their advantage, and they bring down boxing with it.
Yeah, I definitely understand your point there.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I will say, going back to the Tyson versus Roy Jones fight, yes, it was 2 guys that were definitely way out of their time that were fighting, but that fight actually got decent reviews off of it, and it actually seemed like that they took it seriously enough that it was a decent enough fight that people thought it was a good fight. I mean, obviously, again, Jack, like you said, it's not going to be the top competitive boxing. It's not going to be the best boxing you've ever seen in the world. But in cases like that, I think in some ways it's actually good for the sport, not necessarily because you're seeing the best fighters, but because you're seeing these guys who were the best fighters at one point coming back, and that could bring, first of all, the older generations that remember Tyson, that remember Roy Jones Jr. in their primes at 1 and 2, and younger kids who grew up watching videos of Tyson now actually getting to see him fight, and that could potentially push people back into boxing a little bit and actually see guys that are really, really good. But I definitely agree that there is a lot more negative than there is positive.
True.
Yeah.
And I think if they want to do that in the future, like bring guys back to fight, they should do it an official boxing league, not like Days In or whatever Jake Paul's league is that he runs. I just want to quickly touch on it too. We talked about it last episode, like guys like Nick Young and Blueface fighting. Like that shouldn't
ridiculous.
even be called boxing. That's like just sparring, sissy fighting. Like this is not what we're comparing it to at all.
I know. Please don't consider that boxing.
I gotta show you a video of his stance. It was like terrible.
Wait, who? Blueface?
Nick Young. I bet
geez.
Blueface is a worse stance.
I know, yeah. It's gonna be a joke. Like, people are actually paying to watch that. I'm not. I mean,
I'm not.
I can't wait to see the pay-per-view reviews on that, you know. So.
Oh, it's gonna be terrible.
Yeah. Like,
And
who would really pay to watch? You know, like, I'd like to see a clip of who wins, you know, maybe a knockout, but I'm not paying to watch them fight, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I think it would even get less views than the Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley rematch, and that got 65,000 pay-per-view subscriptions, and that was because it was a replacement fight because he was supposed to fight Tyson Fury's little brother, but for legal implications, he couldn't get into the hosting country, and then Woodley was picked out of a hat, and then no one really cared to see it, and shocker, it was a boring fight to watch.
yeah.
I will say one last point. If Logan decides to fight Andrew Tate, that would be the worst thing for boxing ever, because it's literally, like I said earlier, the Logan versus KSI fight on steroids.
Yeah.
No point for either of them to go in a ring together, other than this question and that beat, which there shouldn't be any anyway. And this isn't a comment on either Logan or Andrew Tate, are both controversial in their own right due to their social media presence. But the fact that they would bring it into boxing, like, literally no point. Please don't even talk about this in reality. I really hope no promoter ever picks this up, because you would literally destroy boxing as we know it.
I hate to break it to you, but it's actually not Logan that's thinking of fighting him, it's Jake, and the fact that it's Jake means that it's likely going to happen.
Videos of both of them sort of talking about Jake. I forgot which one it was, but either one of them should just Jake's also controversial for the stuff that he did as a teenager on YouTube. But just either one of them, if they decided to fight Andrew Tate, would be terrible for boxing.
Yeah, but the fact that it's Jake, like, in my mind, it makes it a million times more likely to happen, and I see it happening in the near future.
Yeah. And it's just like, it's something that they could just handle in Andrew Tate's backyard, but instead they infect boxing with their just nonsense, you know?
Yeah, but I actually do think it would be interesting to see, because Andrew Tate is a kickboxer, and like guys like McGregor have been taken out of MMA to fight Floyd in boxing, and I actually think this will be like the first fighter taken out of his natural sport that would beat the natural boxer.
You think he would be?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like he was like a really good kickboxer. I don't know. I just feel like the experience will take over, and it's not like he was just another kickboxer. He was like a 4-time world champion or something like that.
Okay.
So,
No, he was a good fighter.
Yeah.
I just feel like this can be a lot. The promotional stuff will be 1,000 times more interesting than a fight.
Yeah. So let's transition into golf. And this is like really interesting to me, because putting this in basketball terms for people that aren't familiar with the situation, the LIV Tour controversy is kind of like Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Joel Embiid like going to play in the EuroLeague, utterly leaving the NBA for more money, and it makes no sense like trying to put that into actualization, but that's happening in the golf world. And my question to you guys is, do you think the LIV Tour is detrimental to golf as a whole?
I think it's detrimental to golf because of the fact that there's so much controversy surrounding the LIV League. For people that don't know, the LIV League is backed by Saudi government money. Basically, they have a private organization that's given gets public funds to run a lot of events, including the LIV Tour. There's been a lot of controversy surrounding the Saudi government, especially after killing the journalist back in 2017, whose name I'm currently blanking on at the moment.
Yeah, it's Prince Salman, who's
something like that.
Yeah.
It's also been a lot of rumors that the government helped harbor the 9/11 terrorists, or at least there was money given to specific people that were harboring the terrorists while they were living in California at the time. So there's a lot of different controversies surrounding this league, and a lot of players have left because of the money being thrown at them. Tiger Woods, who decided to stay with PGA, was offered $800 million ballpark to leave PGA to go to LIV. So these guys are getting a ton of money, and it's bad for golf because it's ruining the reputation of the golfers that were some of the best in the generation. Obviously, Tiger Woods was the best golfer of our generation, but when you look at these other guys, I mean, Phil Mickelson left, Dustin Johnson, who was, again, younger, Bryson DeChambeau, also younger, Patrick Reed. These guys aren't that well known as much as Mickelson, who won 3 Masters, but they're still well known enough that it's going to bring down the PGA Tour, and people are just going to watch LIV because of the controversy surrounding it. So you're literally destroying 2 leagues while trying to make another one.
So I actually disagree, honestly, because here's my point. Golf and golf fans they're so accepting of all kinds of golf, honestly. And I think that people's love for the PGA Tour and the courses and the history and the traditions, there are still going to be great golfers who play in the PGA Tour, you know what I'm saying? Because people like Tiger Woods stayed, you know what I'm saying? And he's just like you said, Aiden, he's the greatest golfer of our generation. This is the generation that's coming up next in the PGA Tour. So you are right, Aiden, that a lot of big names, and they were huge pieces for the PGA Tour, and they left for the LIV Tour, and that's a big loss, definitely, for the PGA Tour. But I don't think that the PGA Tour is going anywhere. I think that they're going to do okay, and I do think that LIV Tour is also going to do okay, because I know that golf fans love watching golf, and they love the courses from the PGA Tour, and they are also going to welcome in the new traditions that LIV Tour gives us because of those big names that left to go there. They're going to go watch the LIV Tour, but they're also going to stay and watch the PGA Tour. I mean, honestly, one example is my dad. I know my dad is going to watch both, you know, because he just loves watching golf. And that's how a ton of golf fans are. They just love watching golf, and they're going to continue to watch both, in my opinion.
So here's my one question for you, Jack. What would you say the median age of golf fans is that watch golf?
It's definitely on the older side right now.
So what happens when not a single cable channel picks up the LIV Tour because of the controversy surrounding it? Are we expecting the older generation to buy streaming services to watch golf? Are we expecting them to be able to find other ways around to watch golf when none of these cable channels pick it up? Because at this point, that's what's happening. That's the biggest reason why the LIV Tour hasn't grown to any point, because it's only on YouTube to stream it. It's only on other streaming services that aren't even ones that you pay for. So at this point, you can't even watch it unless you're trying really, really hard in order to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't see that changing in the near future.
Actually, yeah, you definitely might be right about that. And it could definitely have an XFL feel because they aren't able to go on to cable TV like most national sports are, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it might do really well over in Europe also.
I think it could. I also think that as of right now, there's a lot of turmoil, especially with the PGA not allowing these guys to come back to the PGA Tour. And these are like really big names. The other issue is, like you brought up Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods is at the end of his career right now. He's 46 years old. Yes, he won the Masters in 2019. That was also before a really, really bad car accident that happened to him back in 2021. And luckily he's come back to the course, but he doesn't look like himself.
No.
He had to work himself all the way back from the first car accident that happened in 2010. And right now the face of the PGA Tour is Rory McIlroy, who hasn't won at all since the 2014 PGA Championship. That was the last one. That was 8 years ago.
Yeah.
So are we really expecting him, the guy who's supposed to be the face of golf, the new face, to to come back and win after 8 years, or for Tiger to win another championship after going through the car accident and only winning one championship since he really came back in like 2016, 2017. Like, I just don't see it happening. And unless these younger golfers step up, I could see that it's going to really hurt the PGA Tour.
Honestly, I love these new younger golfers like Ricky Fowler. He's not like super young, like the guys I'm about to mention, like Zalatoris and Cameron Smith and Scotty Scheffler. And those are a couple young names who are really, really good golfers right now, and they have promising futures. So I'm hoping guys like that can kind of take over for the faces of the PGA Tour. But I definitely see your point also, though, where all those names were huge names that, they had a lot left in the tank. And yeah, it definitely hurts the PGA Tour that they left. They left a lot on the plate for their PGA career to go over to LIV, which, yeah. And the fact that the PGA Tour isn't allowing them back, like you said, I don't know how smart that is, because if LIV Golf fails and then these guys are out of LIV Golf contract, is PGA Tour going to switch up and then allow them back, do you think?
And see, that's been my question this whole time, is what happens if it fails? Because at this point, there's no way that LIV is making any money. Like, there's just not. There's really no advertising for it. You're paying guys at the upwards of $300 million.
Yeah, how is...
You're signed, so for the PGA, it's merit-based, so you have to win in order to get paid.
Yeah, right.
If you can only make 90 to 94 million playing PGA, his contract with LIV is $300 million.
Yeah.
So I just don't see how LIV can last if they don't, first of all, if they don't get a network to air their games.
Yeah.
If they don't get advertising. I just don't see how any cable company can willingly allow LIV to go on with all the controversy surrounding the Saudi government. And I just don't see how advertisers can willingly do that, especially American advertisers and some Western European advertisers as well.
Yeah.
With all the controversies. I just don't. If companies are willing to do that, and I could see it because these guys are big names, but at this point it's not. They're going to wait a couple of years. I just don't know if LIV has a couple of years to last. Right,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm in agreement. I think you came up with a good point when you mentioned the demographics. Like, it's really hard to reach the golf demographic when you're not on a TV channel.
Yeah, you're right.
And there's like a lot of people who are like really hard against it for moral and ethical reasons with Saudi Arabia. Yep. And there's nothing saying that the people in Saudi Arabia who back this league do have ties to 9/11 or did have anything to do with the kill of that journalist. But it's worth noting there's guys like Phil Mickelson who called out Saudi Arabia for being unethical and then joined the league like not even a month later.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Which I found insane, but he was handed like, what, $300 million?
I know, yeah. And just to be clear, I hope that this league fails because of that. You know what I'm saying? Because of all the behind the curtain work that funded this league. How are they going to compete with, the Masters? Because like I said, these PGA fans and all golf fans around the world, they really do care about that. And like, especially for countries around the world, they watch that for the golfer that is representing their country. And there's a lot of international representation in the PGA Tour. So, like, how is LIV Golf going to compete with that? You know what I'm saying? And like I said, all those traditions, it's just going to be really hard for them. You guys are definitely right about that.
Yeah, and I also think it's really weird that, like, well, I don't think it's really weird. I think there's a internal reason that isn't talked about why guys are leaving the PGA, because think about it, like, every star phenom basketball player dreams about going to the NBA. Like, they don't want to play overseas. Like, there's a certain loyalty to, like, that place you always wanted to go, and these guys are leaving.
Yeah.
And I think there's more behind the scenes and that's getting led on, and I think the PGA has some fault to guys leaving to going to the Middle East, of all places, to play golf.
Yeah.
But the money is great. I did see the purse for this upcoming tournament in the LIV Tour is capped out at $50 million, which is the biggest ever.
Yeah.
So
I don't think any PGA Tour is.
No.
No.
And they all have to work for their money, and they're getting like guaranteed money over there.
Right.
So I don't know where that money's coming from.
Yeah,
but
right.
I will also add on that, Jack, you did mention this, that there's a lot of issues that the PGA needs to find.
Yeah.
To fix. And part of it is the money. Like, if you're expecting guys to get their money based on the wins they get, that's not sustainable now that there's a league that is willing to just sign contracts. You have to lock in contracts. So PGA definitely has a lot to fix. I don't know if they're going to be willing to do it. They actually kind of made a few changes. They're going to be doing a tournament style similar to what LIV did, which is not something they've ever done before. So it's interesting to see that now they're starting to actually take LIV as a threat, which is something they should have done in the first place. And now they're already behind about like 5 steps. So hopefully they make the changes that they need in order to keep the golfers around.
Yeah, they got to do something. All right, so let's transition to the NFL Week 1. It was actually a pretty eventful week, a lot to talk about, especially last night. This is recorded on Tuesday, so everyone knows what I'm referring to. You guys want to open up with that?
Yeah, Aiden, you can start.
A couple of things stuck out to you. First of all, you can't fumble twice to the goal line and expect to win, which is exactly what the Broncos did.
What's with Russ in the 1 yard line?
I know, yeah.
Yeah, it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
The field goal to end the game was very questionable. I know that they're pretty far away to go for it, but you still had a few seconds left where if you got the first down, clocked it quickly, you had a much better chance of making that field goal
Yep.
than trying for the distance they did. But the biggest thing that I saw was how well Geno Smith played as a starter.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't had a lot of opportunities to be started since he left the Jets. This is his first huge shot. And he struggled a lot in the preseason, barely won the starting job in Seattle. And he looked like a great, maybe not great, but he looked like a solid starting quarterback who could potentially do a lot of good things this season, which is not something anyone would have thought in the preseason. So I think that it sort of just shows, first of all, it shows that the preseason means almost nothing. It's just a way to get guys prepared. What you do in the preseason does not show what you will do in the regular season, but it also shows that Geno Smith maybe wasn't as bad as we all remember. So I don't remember him being awful with the Jets, but the Jets team that he had wasn't that good to begin with. So I think he just needed an opportunity with a more solid team. I don't think Seattle's still going to do that well this year, even though they're the only team in the West that won a game this week. But I think that they're going to be a little better than most people thought, and especially more than I thought.
I think it really came out that he sat behind Eli Manning, then Phillip Rivers for a while, and then Russell Wilson for like 4 years. He's got like a lot of
veteran leadership, definitely.
Yeah, that was a shot in the dark. I really hope he does well. And he found DK and Lockett a lot, which I didn't think he was going to be able to do because they were getting covered really well the entire game.
Yeah, and actually Seattle's O-line played pretty well. Like, they allowed Geno, just gave him enough time, to be able to find DK and Lockett. And DK and Lockett are just reliable guys, great route runners, great hands, I mean, DK has had some drop issues, but Lockett for sure has reliable hands. And, that's good for a guy like Geno Smith, who he just needs guys to throw to. You know what I'm saying? He can't make guys better, but he can throw to really good guys,
Yeah. There's 2 guys from this week that didn't get time to throw. Do you guys want to pick one and just talk about it?
I mean, Jalen Hurts, we can start with our hometown hero. I mean, Hurts just saved the Eagles a lot that game. It was tough to get a read on his arm because he wasn't really able to go through his progressions. A lot of his completions to A.J. Brown, who had 10 catches, 155 yards, a lot of his completions to Brown were the hot route, first read. And, he was getting the ball out fairly quickly. Besides that deep ball, the 54-yarder at the end of the first half. But most of those completions were fairly intermediate and quick routes where Hurts was getting the ball out quickly. And then, other than that, Hurts was having to escape the pocket a lot because the rush was getting there, There was a lot of miscommunication on the Eagles' O-line. So I think that they're going to get it figured out. And once they think about this the Eagles have the best O-line in the NFL, no question, still. And they didn't even play well, and the Eagles still put up 31 points. A.J. Brown had a monster game still. Hurts played fairly well. I don't want to go too far in saying he played great or amazing or anything, but he played pretty well. And, I mean, his rushing ability and just his escapability is elite in the NFL. I mean, it's him and Lamar. He's the second best rushing quarterback in the NFL, definitely. No question. He played pretty well, and once the Eagles get full tilt and start hitting on all cylinders, they're going to be a scary offense. The defense is a way bigger question mark, though.
Yeah, I kind of wish Sanders didn't break through in the fourth quarter because I wanted Hurts to have a early shot at a game-winning drive. And I feel like it would have been beneficial for him week one.
Yeah.
For him to operate the field and make a play with his arm.
Yeah. As a fan, though, I'm definitely happy that Sanders got through there.
I'm happy he had a great game, too.
Yeah, Sanders played really well.
So well deserved.
Mm-hmm. All three running backs were really good for Philly.
Yeah, so I definitely agree with everything you guys just said. Jalen definitely was also having issue finding any time to just throw the ball. He was 0 for 5 for the first time to start a game in his career. He settled down as a thrower, but really his legs, except that the quarterback that was under the most pressure he's the guy that was under the most pressure throughout the postseason last year, the Super Bowl last year. Joe Burrow got sacked 7 times again in week one. The Bengals just need to fix their offensive line.
Yeah.
They will be a Super Bowl contender again in the future. It won't be this year, and it's because of the offensive line. You can't have your star quarterback get sacked 7 times expecting to last a full season. The fact he did it last year is just a testament to his strength, but as we saw in his first season, because of their offensive line, he tore his ACL. And they took a huge risk getting Jamar Chase over an offensive lineman. Luckily, it's paid off for them, but it's not going to pay off in the next couple of years as Burrow keeps getting hit the way that he is.
Yeah.
And because that time was started off, he threw 4 interceptions, which is almost unheard of for Joe Burrow, especially after what he did last season. So if you don't have the time, you have to worry about injuries. You have to worry about him not feeling comfortable in the pocket.
Everything you said was spot on right there. And the fact that they play a first-place schedule this year and they're in a division where all 4 teams are very competitive and very tough to beat. With this O-line, it's going to be tough for them to win games. And it's going to be tough for them to find a rhythm on offense. So, yeah, I definitely fear for them. I think I predicted them having 10 wins. And I still think that they'll be around there. They were at 10 last year, too. I think they'll be around 10 again this year. Because I do think that they'll get it figured out. They had it figured out last year. And yeah, teams are definitely adjusting on them, but it's on them now to make the adjustment back. So I think that they'll be okay. Yeah, everything you said was correct, and the offensive line is a huge issue for them.
I'm not ready to hit the panic button on their offensive line. I mean, they did get Kappa, and it was the first game. They were going against T.J. Watt. I know he didn't play the entire game, but they have a good defensive line even besides him.
Yeah.
And they're a division rival, so makes it even harder. And they did upgrade the offensive line. It's just I need to see them moving forward because I think that they did address it a lot in the offseason. They improved tremendously in that regard, and I'm not ready to write them off in that sense.
Definitely agree. And I think that we should talk about another team too. I think Aiden will be happy I brought this up, but I mean, his Vikings prediction is looking very, very good right now. I mean, wow, that was a masterclass that they pulled off against Green Bay. They dominated them, start to finish.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
I mean, the offense was explosive. Cousins was really good. He threw 277 yards and 2 touchdowns. Both were to Justin Jefferson, who, I mean, wow. That guy is a freak.
I will say, and this is what I said in the last episode, Kevin O'Connell was going to open up this offense a lot. And that's what you saw. I mean, Justin Jefferson was running all over the field.
Yeah.
Literally, the Packers, I know that they could have switched to other quarterbacks, but I don't even think it would have mattered because of the way that Jefferson was just able to run those routes openly the way that Cup was able to do with the Rams last year.
Yeah. And another thing for them is I'm saying right now that they have a really underrated defense. Jordan Hicks is good for them. He had 14 total tackles, 9 solos. He had a forced fumble, a sack. Harrison Smith is still really good for them. He had an interception. He had 7 tackles, I'm pretty sure. They have an underrated defense, and I think that you are definitely right, and they're going to come closer to your prediction than most people. They're going to make real noise in the NFC.
Okay, while we're on the subject of this game, I just want to clear something. I know you guys want to talk about Rodgers right after this, but he had a worst opening game last season, undebatably, and he won his 4th MVP, his 2nd consecutive MVP.
Yeah.
I'm not backing down from my prediction he's going to win MVP again this season.
Mm-hmm.
I firmly believe it.
Yeah.
Alan Lazard is coming back, and I know Aaron Rodgers ripped Christian Watson and everyone else who dropped the ball that week and new ones, so they're going to come out catching this week.
Yeah, I actually wasn't even going to say anything about them, but yeah, I definitely agree. I think that the Packers are still going to be okay. I think Rodgers is going to right the ship, I mean, he's always done it ever since he spelled out relax in that one press conference too. I forget what year that was, but yeah, no, they're good. They're good. They're going to compete. But I don't know. Honestly, I don't know about competing for the NFC. I think that they'll compete for a playoff spot.
Well, they haven't competed for the NFC for a while. They have on paper, but they haven't.
They've been close, though. Because he has gotten them to NFC championships. But yeah, I mean, you're kind of right. Last year, I mean, they competed for the NFC last year.
They've been 13, and they've won 13 games
yeah.
the last 3 years. They had the 1 seed last year.
Yeah, I mean, they had.
They've been at the top of the NFC. I mean, yeah, maybe they didn't have the 1 seed every single time, but 13 wins 3 years in a row, you're pretty much at the top every single time. So the fact that if they get less, I mean, Matt LaFleur has gotten 13 wins his entire time with the Packers as the head coach. So if they get less than that right now, it's not looking good for the Packers. I don't see them getting that 13 win mark again.
Yeah, no, I don't. No, I do not see that.
Because you had a safety net. Your safety net was Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
You knew you could get on the ball every single time, regardless of how bad the game is going.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a guy like that anymore.
But they had to pay Rodgers, so now you can't pay Devontae.
Right.
And it's like, who'd you rather pay at this point? Would you rather have Devontae Adams right now and the rest of the Packers team, right? And Jimmy Garoppolo as the QB, or the team right now with Aaron Rodgers?
I mean, definitely you have to go with that. You have to have a franchise quarterback in it.
Yeah.
There's no question about that.
Mm.
And as much as I don't think that Aaron Rodgers is as great as Aaliyah's other quarterbacks, he's still a top-tier quarterback. You're not going to win if you don't have that. Yeah.
I don't think it's crazy to say, though, that Devontae Adams' impact was just so big, and just having him is better than Rodgers has nothing right now. He just has nothing to throw to.
Let's backtrack on that for a second, because you know who else had nobody pretty much his entire time that he won 3 Super Bowls playing with New England? Tom Brady.
Yeah.
You know who Tom Brady was throwing to? He was throwing to a 6th-string
draft
pick who was a quarterback at Kent State.
Yeah, I mean,
throwing to a guy that got cut from 3 teams before he became a starter in New England.
Yeah.
Yes, he had Gronk as a safety, but most of the time he was throwing the wide receivers that were pretty much better than the Packers, who have Sammy Watkins, who was a first-round draft pick. Yes, maybe he hasn't played up to a first-round draft pick, I'm sure, but he was still a very talented guy. Randall Cobb, who's had before, and a couple of running backs that he can still get the ball to.
Yep.
It's not like he's just throwing to nobody at this point.
Yeah. And let's also mention Chris Hogan, who was a lacrosse player at Penn State that Tom Brady made into a 100-yard receiver in the Super Bowl.
The Patriots were drafting top-notch receivers.
I completely agree.
No,
and he took less money and said, "Go pay the defense and you can go pick up Tommy from the Walmart down the street in Foxborough, and you go pay the defense, everything in the defense, and the offense will be fine." And I mean, you're definitely right. And it's how can you compare Rodgers to that? I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry. How? Tom Brady just
You gotta take in fact the organization. The Patriots organization is very competent. The Packers organization...
Brady... Wait, let me say one thing before you continue. Brady was a part of that.
Yeah, he had a big part in it.
And Rodgers has a big part in why the Packers front office is just a mess. But keep going.
Did he really have a part in them drafting Jordan Love?
No, but like, there's a lot more. There's a lot more. Yeah, there's a lot more. But keep going.
In the first round, though?
Keep going.
The first round, when they needed a receiver.
The Niners...
Yeah.
The Niners traded up... Yeah, the Niners traded 3 first-round picks to go get Trey Lance, and Jimmy G still took them to the NFC Championship. Like, even with all that noise... And like, I don't even like Jimmy G, but like, I have a respect for him for that.
Yeah. Do you think that's a bad move now, looking at the Week 1 game?
I don't know. I mean, dude, they played in a monsoon, so like, I don't know if I want to. I don't know if I want to judge them yet.
So here's the thing: I will give the Bears credit. They still have a really, really good defense. Like, their offense is not good. I don't really know about Justin Fields yet. And
Yeah.
partly because the Bears' offensive line is probably one of the worst in the NFL, and there's just no weapons surrounding him. But their defense is still very good.
Yeah.
And Trey Lance has only played like 3 career games.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest issue with having Garoppolo is there's always going to be those whispers. When do we put Garoppolo in? When do we sit Trey Lance? And that would have not been there had Garoppolo been gone.
Yeah, right.
And so now you've got the added pressure of still winning with a team that was literally a play away from going to the Super Bowl last year. Because they're pretty much haven't lost anyone.
Yeah.
So they're still a very good team.
Mm-hmm.
You got the added pressure of the guy who got them that far playing behind you, and also you still have to learn the offense and try to compete. Like, there's so much pressure on Trey Lance, I can't even imagine it right now.
Yeah, right. No, I completely agree.
But it's also the 49ers' fault. Like, yes, you never want to take a cap hit by cutting someone, but also you now have made what was a very well-run organization by Jordan Lynch a very dysfunctional one.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
You said it in one of the early episodes, like you kind of called it. You said that the Niners weren't sold on Trey Lance, but even though they were saying it in the media, and I didn't really see it, but now seeing him on the sideline Week 1, like that's got to be the case.
Yeah, that was the Paul episode, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and especially like with Dak going down, like you should at least hear a report that they're trying to get him over to Dallas or something. But there's been a lot of quarterback jobs that he could have filled this year, and he's still on the Niners.
And like, I want to bring up another point too, that's building off of what you guys are saying. It hurts Trey Lance, I feel like, to have Jimmy G sitting behind him through all this. And like, I'll compare it to this: when Carson Wentz, after the Super Bowl, he came back in 2018, and Foles was behind him, and it's like, there was so much pressure on there was so much pressure on Wentz to play well with Foles behind him, because Foles just won the Super Bowl and is the king of the city at that point. And there was just a lot of pressure on him. And then because of that pressure, he didn't address a back injury that turned out to be a key injury, and it derailed his career pretty much, which is pretty sad to think about. And like, you feel bad, kind of. And like, looking back on that, should the Eagles have just made a decision and then let Foles walk after that season? Maybe. Or maybe traded him that offseason? I don't know. But yeah, so I think that the 49ers should really make a decision right now on Jimmy G, and maybe hop on the Cowboys thing because Dak is hurt. Or maybe if you want to wait it out a little bit longer, see if another QB goes down with a season-ending injury, because let's be real, it does happen quite often in the NFL. If you want to wait a little bit but yeah, I think they should move on from Jimmy G soon.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I will say the Eagles' situation was a little bit different because you knew Wentz wasn't coming back until week 3 or week 4.
Yeah.
So it was sort of like you still want a good backup because you knew that Wentz was coming back, and you had no idea throughout the entire offseason if something would go wrong with rehab.
True.
Like, you just didn't know, considering how late it was in the season when he got hurt.
True, definitely.
Where you have 2 very healthy quarterbacks right now.
Mm-hmm.
and you have the guy who you literally pay to be your franchise quarterback on the bench.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, it's a very complicated situation. It definitely didn't have to.
Yeah. Mm.
And you mentioned it earlier. I think we should just talk about Dak briefly. Do you guys think the Cowboys are done after week 1?
Yeah. I mean, it definitely depends on how long Dak misses. Yeah, if Dak is really out 6 to 8 weeks, that's a huge chunk of time. And it's like, they did not even look good with Dak in there.
No.
So, without Dak, they're going to be screwed. You know what I mean?
Cooper Rush couldn't put a ball within 10 yards of a receiver
Yeah.
when he came in.
Yeah, nah. I don't think that their team is that good anyway. I think that their season is... I think that they'll finish around 7, 8, 9 wins, around there.
Yeah.
Probably.
Jerry said that Dak could come back in 4 weeks, which I don't really...
I don't know. I just like...
that.
Yeah, I don't know. I know he wants to believe that, and maybe those doctors are being optimistic. And wasn't this an injury that Russell Wilson had? And they
Someone had it, yeah.
they rushed Wilson back too. And Wilson wasn't good last year when he got rushed back. And that
Yeah, I will also say with the Dak injury, the biggest reason why I don't think that this will be a successful season right now is even if he does get back in 4 weeks, the Commanders look a lot better than I thought they were going to.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, Wentz looked good.
Wentz had a couple of nice deep balls. He had a couple of really bad interceptions as well.
Yeah.
Which is kind of not necessarily uncharacteristic because when he throws interceptions, they're really bad.
Yeah.
But he averages around 27 TDs, 7 interceptions a season.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good, actually.
Yeah.
So I think that this was more of a fluke game. I think that he's just passing the ball a lot more because that's what the offense is going to entail. But his deep ball is nice.
Yeah.
The defense looked a lot better than a lot of Commanders' defenses look in the past.
They still got some good names on that.
Yeah.
Chase isn't back yet either.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I think that you're going to have a lot more competition. I know the Giants won their game. Still don't have a lot of faith in Daniel Jones, but if you have Saquon who can stay healthy,
Yeah.
the Giants could be up there.
Maybe, yeah.
Get
Maybe.
a few nice wins like they did on Sunday.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be a lot more competitive of an NFC East than we're used to.
Yeah.
And if you are without Dak for even a short amount of time, it's going to be really, really hard to come back from that gap.
Yep, agreed. And I wrote down the Commanders too. I said that they're a sleeper team. I mentioned Wentz. The weapons is what surprises me. Antonio Gibson, Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson, who looked really good in his debut. Logan Thomas is still reliable. J.D. McKissick. They have some really good weapons for Wentz. It's a sort of easy situation for a QB to thrive. And let's be real. I mean, we saw Wentz have a really, really good season. He's never going to get back to that, but he can still be a pretty good QB. And like you said, their defense looked better than we thought that they were going to look. I'll just blurt out some names from them. Montez Sweat on the D-line, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne on the D-line, Kendall Fuller in the secondary. It's still some decent names. So, yeah, I could definitely see them making some noise. Obviously not competing for the conference, but, if the Eagles slip up, because I feel like the Eagles are the quote-unquote runaway favorite right now. If they slip, the Commanders are going to be right there. You know what I mean? I could see the Commanders getting 10 wins.
Yeah,
I could see that, dude. Their schedule is... I think they have the tied for the easiest schedule in the NFL. And Wentz isn't bad.
no.
He wasn't bad in week 1. I'll say that.
NFC is not really competitive either.
Yeah. As of now, yeah. I mean...
pretty much every team. I have a question mark about pretty much every team in that division except for the Commanders after week 1.
I low-key agree with you, yeah. And, that's also... 2020 was such a weird year. In that season, the Commanders had... I guess they were the Washington football team. They had the least amount of problems. You know what I'm saying? They obviously still had a ton of huge issues, but they had the most stable of the 4 teams, which was not very stable at all. And it's that's kind of how it's looking right now. The Commanders kind of look like the most stable team, because Wentz definitely looked, I think he had a better game than Hurts in week 1.
What about
honestly.
the Vikings? You were talking about how stable they were as a whole.
The Vikings are stable.
Yeah, no. Do you think they're like the most stable team in the league?
I mean, yeah, they're definitely more stable than the Commanders. Yeah, the Vikings probably are. I mean, no, not in the league, the NFC. The Vikings are probably the most. Yeah.
I would agree. Like, I was saying that the Vikings are going to win the NFC without even watching them. After watching them, they feel like the most complete team in the NFC.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, Aiden. And, like, the Eagles could be there, too. God, the defense just looked so bad. That looked terrible.
The biggest issue is that the person holding them back is still around. Jonathan Gannon is the biggest reason why that defense is not any better than it is.
I agree.
The zones that they run are ridiculous. Like, there's literally defenders that are 5 yards off the ball when the wide receiver's at the first down mark.
Yeah, it makes
It
sense.
just makes absolutely no sense when they run deep zones like that. The other thing, too, you're playing Jared Goff. Like, no offense to Jared Goff, he doesn't have a good deep arm.
No.
He's not that athletic. If you blitzed him enough, he would feel the pressure. He would get forced turnovers like he did on that interception.
Yeah, where was Hassan Reddick? You paid this guy in the offseason, and I didn't see him in the backfield like one time.
I thought he got fired though.
No.
If they don't change the defense, there's going to be huge problems.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not the personnel, it's the scheme. They have to change the coaching and the scheme, definitely, yeah.
The players themselves, when they actually were allowed to make plays, looked good.
Yeah.
When you didn't allow them to make those plays, they looked bad. The one other game that I want to touch on quickly is the Chiefs-Cardinals game.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on this
I
too.
have no idea how many people were apparently saying that the Chiefs wouldn't win the AFC West, which is absolutely ridiculous considering that they have Patrick Mahomes. Like, I had no idea that this was a thing. Did you guys?
I've heard it. I mainly just heard the Chargers would take the division.
I picked the Chargers to win it, but I picked the Chiefs 1 win off the Chargers.
I've heard some Raiders and Broncos. And
I
I want the crack they're smoking.
No, I think the Chiefs will probably sweep both of them, Raiders, Chargers. And then they'll probably split. I'm sorry.
I guess you're splitting the Chargers, but the fact that they're not heavy favorites to me is just kind of insane because you still have the best quarterback.
Yeah, no, I see that. I meant the Chiefs will sweep the Raiders and Broncos. But I think they'll split the Chargers. But yeah, I think that you might be right that they should be favorites, because the Chiefs are the Chiefs.
Yeah,
and the Chargers have to prove it. The Chargers have to prove it first.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too. And going back to the Patriots, which is the best team of all time, that dynasty that they had. They had Tom Brady. They were always favorites. They were also always favorites because they had a great defense. They had great personnel. The Chiefs don't have the same personnel the Patriots did, but when you're scoring 5 touchdowns a game, it doesn't matter who your personnel is.
Yeah.
And they still have I understand they lost Tyreek Hill. I don't think Tyreek Hill was that big of a factor. I think he was a big factor because you had Mahomes throwing on the ball.
Right. And, I mean, Tyreek Hill definitely is one of the best receivers in the league. But, yeah, you're right. Mahomes is just so reliable that it doesn't matter who you plug in there. And he proved that. He proved that.
That's his favorite weapon, too. Especially in goal line situations.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Kelsey's definitely the biggest impact. Yeah. And, Mecole Hardman he had a pretty good game, and Juju Smith-Schuster filled in really nicely. That was a great pickup for them. I think he had 7 catches, I think. Nah, that's good. We can talk about the college now. I kind of want to get into the Sun Belt.
See you guys in 20 minutes.
I mean, let's just go right into the Sun Belt. I mean, what a weekend for them. Seriously, that was a great weekend. And I wrote down even a loss for them. The UNC Georgia State game. That was just a really great game. Georgia State put up a great fight against a pretty good team. So I think that the Sun Belt really got on the map. But let's start with the biggest one. Honestly, I don't know which is the biggest one, but
so here's how I want to start. I want to start with week 1 just because we didn't highlight them before.
Yeah, okay.
There's 3 things that are notable to me. So first of all, with Old Dominion beating Virginia Tech 20-17.
Yeah.
Old Dominion's been in FCS or FBS since 2013. They have 2 wins against Power 5 teams. Both of those wins are against Virginia.
Yeah, I remember the other one too. Yeah.
They own Virginia Tech, and they're playing Virginia Tech, something the next 9 years. So Virginia Tech fans, good luck to you.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah, the next one, and this one was a loss as well. Appalachian State losing 63-61 to North Carolina.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was just a fun football. It was like
Yep.
the perfect college football game. Like it was like, college football is back. The reason I know how because I'm watching Appalachian State play North Carolina in an absolute shootout.
Yeah. Yep.
Like literally, there was a couple of times where Appalachian State went down by 2 touchdowns, and I felt like the game was completely over.
Yeah, and
It's not they would just score like 2 touchdowns in like 3 minutes. It's like, no, we're still here.
yeah, right. Yeah. Dude, I love UNC's QB too. Drake May is really good.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. Like UNC has won a couple really gritty games against these Sun Belt teams.
Yeah, the defense didn't look great, but then like they got the stop at the right time. Like both of the 2-point conversions against Appalachian State, and then against Georgia State, they had a couple stops in the fourth quarter where it's like they didn't play well as the game as a whole, but like they came up when they needed to. You know.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I felt about UNC.
Yeah, no. The other game that I highlighted from week 1 was James Madison beating Middle Tennessee 44-7. That's just because Dave Madison came up from FCS as one of the better FCS teams.
Yeah.
And that doesn't always translate well to the FBS, but they look pretty solid so far.
Yeah, they're what conference are they in? What conference are they in?
James Madison.
Yeah, is it
They're a Sun Belt team.
Sunbelt? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure which one they were in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Like we talked about the North Carolina game. I don't know if you watched the Old Dominion game, but that was an exciting ending.
I didn't watch it. What happened? Tell me.
It was first of all, the way that they scored one of their touchdowns was a blocked field goal for a touchdown.
Okay, yeah, those are always exciting.
That was like crazy, and then
Yeah.
they won on a goal line stand.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So another Virginia Tech definitely had a chance to win the game at the end.
Yeah, okay.
But Old Dominion held. It was an exciting ending.
Yeah.
But then definitely let's go into the week 2 stuff.
Yeah.
If you want to highlight the couple games that you wanted, and then I'll jump in as well.
Yeah. I'll start with the. I'll let you take the Marshall Notre Dame. I'll start with the Appalachian State Texas A&M. I mean, I just want to start with Texas A&M real quick. Just a little highlight. They looked terrible, and just it's so sad that all these recruits got really hyped up, and Jimbo Fisher had that beef with Nick Saban before the season started, and they fell flat on their face against an Appalachian State team who you cannot fall asleep on at all. And Texas A&M absolutely fell asleep. And Appalachian State, it's like they didn't pull away at all because they could have pulled away. And Appalachian State's offense didn't play a great game. But Appalachian State just held them down enough to keep them away. And then they kicked that field goal. I think it was like 7 or 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And then the defense just strangled them down and held it down for Appalachian State. A road win in Kyle Field, which is never, ever, ever easy, no matter what team Texas A&M has. Nonetheless, a top 10 team knocking on the door of the top 5. That was just a great program win for Appalachian State. So hopefully that puts them back on the map because they've been ranked in the bottom of the top 25 for the last, I'd say, like 2 years. So hopefully it puts them back in. I didn't see it. Are they in the top 25? I didn't see them in it.
Not yet.
Yeah,
They're
okay.
Actually, I don't know any Sun Belt teams that are in the top.
I don't think
25
so, yeah.
After all of these wins.
And it's like, I understand for Marshall because Marshall still has to prove it a little bit, but like I just said, Appalachian State has been ranked in the bottom of the top 25 for like a couple years now. And it's like, I feel like them just going to Kyle Field and being able to pull out just a gritty win is like, why are they not in? You know what I mean? That's just my thoughts.
No, I definitely agree.
Yeah.
I know you want me to touch on the Marshall game. I want to touch on another Sun Belt team.
Yeah.
That beat the Power 5 team. I want to touch on the Georgia Southern Nebraska game.
Yeah, okay, I had that too.
Another absolute shootout that this time ended favorably in the Sun Belt's favor.
Yeah.
45-42. Georgia Southern had 5 rushing TDs. Their quarterback threw for 409 yards. This was a team that some people were predicting to win the Big Ten West.
Yeah.
Their pick looked really bad after.
Oh, yeah.
Like their season opener against Northwestern. That looks really bad after this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially because Georgia Southern has not been one of the better teams in the Sun Belt.
No, yeah, you're right.
Coastal Carolina, App State. I would have thrown James Madison just because of what they did in FCS before they moved up. University of Louisiana, formerly University of Louisiana Lafayette, has also been one of the better teams.
Yeah.
This is just a really, really bad loss for Nebraska.
Yeah.
I don't see how Scott Frost can keep his job after this.
He got fired. He's fired. Mm-hmm. He's gone.
He's got to be, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how that announcement hasn't been made yet.
Yeah. And when we were highlighting the week 0 matchups, I'm pretty sure we both said it, like, don't fall for any Nebraska hype. They've been hyped up pretty much every year for like the last 5 years, and especially in the Scott Frost era. And yeah, they never live up to that. And it's continuing. And just a home loss.
It's insane how bad this football team is.
Yeah, it's looking bleak.
Yeah. And I do want to highlight, because Jack asked me this a couple of times that I've called out Nebraska. I do not hate Nebraska. I don't even dislike Nebraska. I just don't like the fact that they're hyped up every year because they're not a good team.
Yeah.
I just don't like teams that are overhyped to the point that everyone favors them to be good when there's no proof at all that they're going to be good.
Yeah, and I would like Nebraska to be good. I think it would be cool. But I don't like Scott Frost, and I never bought into anything he had, so I never really rooted for him, you know?
Yeah. Yep. I will also add in, because I did look it up to see how competitive this conference is. There's 6 teams that are currently 2-0 right now.
Yeah.
3 of them are ones that historically have been, or at least 2 of them have been really good. Coastal Carolina, James Madison, University of Louisiana. So yeah, 3 ones that have been really good. James Madison's a bit of a throw-in just because we didn't know how they would compete now that they moved up the division.
Yeah.
They look pretty solid. The other 3 are Georgia Southern, Marshall, and South Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
This conference, once we get into conference play, this will be the most fun conference to watch in college football.
Yeah, and then you have teams like App State, who has a loss, and Georgia State, who has a loss, who those are good football teams who are going to make noise, you know.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good conference.
Here's the crazy thing about Georgia State. Georgia State's 0-2.
Yeah.
They're still going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, they're gonna get some wins. They'll get some wins.
So yeah, this conference. I read an article recently, yesterday, that called this division the Fun Bowl or the Fun Belt instead of the Sun Belt. I love that name.
Yeah, I love that.
Be the new name of this conference.
Yeah. No, that I'm paying attention. I'm in on the Sun Belt.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, they will be. Them and the SEC will be the 2. Actually, so 2 things. Them and the SEC will be the 2 most fun conferences to watch. The other thing, I think the Sun Belt could potentially pass American as the best group of 5 conference in college football.
Yeah, definitely. I could definitely see that easily.
So yeah, and especially, and that's without the conference realignment. Once conference realignment happens, the Sun Belt will easily pass the American.
100%. Yeah. All right, let's get into the SEC and Big Ten matchups too. So Tennessee and Pittsburgh played this weekend. Tennessee won 31-24 in Pittsburgh. I guess it's Acrisure Field now, not Heinz Field anymore.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
So I just wanted to highlight something about Tennessee because I'm pretty biased on Pitt, so I don't really want to just let my bias take over for them. But I'll touch on Tennessee. I like them, and I want them to be good in the SEC. I want them to make noise. But to be honest, they play a pretty dangerous play style. Their QB was a little inaccurate, and their offense had 2 turnovers. And I just think it's a little dangerous when your QB is inaccurate and you struggle to take care of the football in terms of fumbling when you have to play teams like Alabama and Georgia. So it's a pretty dangerous play style for Tennessee in the SEC. Their defense is good, though. Their defense is good enough to compete, definitely. It's just I hope that they can fix and tweak some things on offense to actually compete, be able to compete with Georgia and Alabama. Because it would be fun to have another team in the SEC coming in and making noise, you know, other than those 2. And then the other matchup, which is coming up, Penn State and Auburn. What do you think about this matchup? Because I'm saying this is a huge test for Franklin and Clifford.
I think it is as well, because you're going to be going into Auburn. It doesn't really matter whatever Auburn's record is, and the fact that they are 2-0 right now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they are. Yep.
Yeah, they haven't played as hard of teams as Penn State has played. Not that Ohio was super hard, but the Purdue game was definitely a really tough week one test,
Yeah.
especially being at Purdue, and they looked, obviously the offense was sharp, but they looked pretty good. I think that they'll still win this one, just based off of how they played against Auburn last year, and Auburn was supposedly better last year than this year, at least going by rankings.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think, I agree, this will be a huge test for Penn State, especially because after this week they play Central Michigan and then go right into conference play. But I do think that looking at other Big Ten teams, like if you look at what's been happening with the Big Ten, you've got a very top-heavy Eastern conference. Like the Big Ten East is so much better than Big Ten West. So this is what we talked about the very first time that we mentioned college football.
Yeah, right.
Just looking at the 3 or 4 ranked teams from the Big Ten are all from the East.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
It's going to be a very tough schedule for Penn State.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When you look at the SEC, it's very spread out, honestly, where the top teams are.
Yeah, East and West. Yeah, agreed.
Because, I mean, you got Georgia and Bama, which are both East and West. Kentucky's East. Florida, who lost to Kentucky, is also East.
Yeah.
That was a really fun game, and I did say last week I thought that Kentucky would probably win that game. They did.
Mm-hmm.
I now have Kentucky definitely being this 2 seed in the East. They're definitely not passing Bama. I don't have any faith in that.
No.
I do think that the 9-3 record that I had them at least in regular season play is very possible.
Yeah, and they're in the top 10 now. They're number 9.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely, I see that.
Yeah.
And what you were saying about
my biggest question that I have when you're looking at these 2 leagues or conferences is obviously the SEC has way more ranked teams than the Big Ten right now.
Yeah.
The power is very much more spread out. Do you think that the Big Ten, if they get a few more teams that can win, if let's say Wisconsin takes over the West, you have like 5 ranked teams. Do you think that there's a chance that the Big Ten could pass the SEC this year as the best conference in college football, or do you still think that the SEC is the most dominant?
I think the Big Ten is knocking on the door right now. So I want to count real quick. The SEC has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams ranked, and the Big Ten has 1, 2, 3, 4. You said 4, right, earlier? Yeah. So yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, double the amount right now. I mean, I don't know if these bottom SEC teams can sustain it. Like, I don't know about Ole Miss. Like I said, I don't know about Tennessee. Texas A&M had a huge struggle. A lot of question marks there. And Florida, I think Florida is the one team that can sustain it. So yeah, maybe if Wisconsin can sneak back in, maybe if Purdue can sneak back in, yeah, maybe the Big Ten could, but a lot of things are going to have to go right. And the Big Ten is also going to have to sustain it too, like the teams like Penn State and Michigan State, you know. Because I think Michigan and Ohio State will, but yeah, Michigan State and Penn State are going to have to keep staying hot and playing up to their ability, you know.
The other unfortunate thing about the way that the SEC and Big Ten are set up is the fact that the best 2 teams in the SEC will not have to play each other until the championship.
Yeah.
Where in the Big Ten, the best 2 teams have to play each other because for rivalry weekend, it's
literally
Ohio State versus Michigan.
All 4 of them play each other, literally.
So it's really, and that's the unfortunate part about the way that the Big Ten has been shaped.
Yeah.
Is that it is all these, they all have to play each other at one point.
Yeah.
So when that's why I'm really safe for extended class going to a slightly different topic, because you know that if Michigan or Ohio State loses, they're pretty much not making it.
Yeah, right. It's like it hurts the Big Ten's chances of getting a team in the playoff.
Where it could very well, if Georgia and Alabama play each other in the SEC championship, and let's say theoretically right now Georgia's number 1, so let's say Georgia wins that game, Bama will still make it in as a 4 seed.
Yeah.
One loss to Georgia.
Uh-huh.
And I don't necessarily have a problem with that in the way that
no, I don't.
Right now.
Yeah.
But it's not fair to other conferences, especially the Big Ten.
Yeah.
For all the really are heavy in one division.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm excited. I'm definitely excited for the Big Ten playoffs. I'm excited to see how it shakes up.
Yeah.
This week was definitely interesting. That Texas A&M, we highlighted that loss. The loss by Florida makes it a lot more interesting as well.
Yeah.
The biggest wins. There wasn't too many big wins in the Big Ten. Ohio State definitely had the biggest one in week 1 over Notre Dame. And same with Penn State beating Purdue, but nothing really that exciting this week.
Yeah, not yet. I mean, Bama had a good win.
Yeah.
But even that was like, I mean, it was just an exciting game, but like Texas isn't a great team, you know?
No, I'm interested by the Bama games. Now I have a lot more questions about them.
Yeah, same. Definitely same.
And my biggest concern is you're playing in, it's still, the SEC will still be the best conference in college football this year.
Yeah.
So you're playing a lot of tougher teams. You can't slip up against any of them.
Yeah.
You can't, even though Texas A&M lost that game to App State, they beat Bama last year.
Mm-hmm.
Bama almost lost the Iron Bowl last year because of a lot of mistakes. If they not come back, if they didn't Bryce Young at quarterback, they would have easily lost that game. So Bama's at a point where you can't slip up. And the other thing that's interesting too is if Bama looks really bad against Texas in SEC play, they could potentially fall to 4th before they play Georgia.
Yeah, no, you're right.
If you lose to Georgia at that point, you're probably out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
So there is a scenario that I do see Bama missing. I still think Georgia and Alabama will both be in the playoffs at the end of the regular season, at the end of the regular season and also the conference championship weekend.
Yeah.
But it will be interesting to see how it all shakes up.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree.
All right, so I think that's going to cut it for this week. Next week, we'll open up with reviewing our fantasy lineups because we're all in the same league, and I don't think there's much to talk about because I have Derrick Henry, so clear.
Clear winner right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, we'll catch you next episode.